We're getting busy with bots, massive smelting overhaul, and completing the remaining science, all leading up to launching the rocket. I've got more Factorio in the EXP Journal series, and I don't know how I tolerated this up until now, but I have been on foot a lot. Sometimes occasionally driving, but mostly on foot, and I haven't done anything to improve that. Well, I got another use of iron ore to alleviate that. Concrete. Walking on concrete will give me a speed boost of 40%, and I'm going to need a lot of coverage. Since I'm now getting iron ore from drains, this small iron patch will be devoted to making concrete. It'll sit nicely next to the rail production. Let's have it stockpile for a bit. Grab a handful and change the side using numpad plus or minus, and just plant it everywhere. Actually, I should have made a separate walkway, but I got too excited. So my base right now has gotten quite long that all of this back and forth action simply won't do anymore, and I have the means of fixing that. And the crown jewel that all engineers look forward to is bots. These little guys will be responsible for placing and removing entities as well as transferring items through a logistic network. This is also where you actually unlock blueprints in its entirety, along with the destruction planner and upgrade planner. So yes, in essence, you would no longer have to do the brunt of the work. So yeah, let's frickin' go! After extending the main bus to where it'll turn, I'll be using the open space south of the bus next to the stacker inserters. The ultimate piece needed for these bots are flying robot frames, which consist of two notable ingredients: batteries and electric engine units. This is where our oil work comes into play, with sulfur for batteries and lubricant for engines. I'll start with batteries since that's the one that's mostly new to me. Along the main bus, I sent over the water, sulfur, and iron so that all of that gets made into sulfuric acid, which will directly feed into batteries, along with copper and more iron. Now to move on with the engine units. Now I'll bring in lubricant and green chips to finish electric engine units. Now this is where the belt weaving trick really comes into play, as we need 4 ingredients: weaving batteries and green chips into the red belts, and electric engine units and steel into the yellow belts. Oh boy, I'm getting closer. All right, let's drag the chips over and... Are you kidding me? I completely forgot I made extra engines from earlier. Wow, this whole section was pointless. Now, after cleaning up from my forgetfulness, it's time for the main attraction. So automation for bot production is going to be a bit more different, as this will be configured to be more on demand when needed instead of constantly making them. To go along with bots, there will be these here charging and housing units called roboports that will be responsible for connecting to one another and forming the logistic network throughout the base. I'll also need to automate these brand new chests, as it'll instruct the bots on how to manage items. So to make sure I don't create more bots than I need, we're once again turning to circuit networks to define some parameters. When I enable read robot statistics, we get a list of output signals that we could use: Z for available construction bots and X for available logistics bots. So when there is less of what is available throughout the whole network, it'll make more to meet the demand. Now I took multiple roboports and spread them across the base while keeping them connected with the dotted line. The orange overlay indicates logistic bot range, and the green is for construction bot range. Now it's a matter of adding or replacing chests with the new ones. And there you go. Wait. Get your ass back here! Yeah, anything marked for destruction will just be removed without question, so I can't disable machines that way anymore. Likewise for using ghost entities. Oh boy. I had to frantically check the main buses to make sure that no new belts would mess up the lines. I mean, look at all of this. These bots is what all true engineers strive for. Now it's all a matter of swapping out the old chests for the new ones for ease of access. So because of unlocking the Logistics network, we have a new tab in our inventory screen for Logistics to request or to put away items. As long as you are in range, your orders will be fulfilled. You too far away to do any work? Not a problem. Just use Remote View to ghost a roboport, remove those random stone blocks I placed a long time ago, and it'll do the rest. At some point, the power demand is going to be a lot greater when everything is in motion, so I place these roboports close by so I can easily stamp down a new array of steam engines. Likewise, I extended them all with more assemblers to make the needed amount of boilers and engines when the time comes. I even split and dragged the stone line from rail production over to this spot. Old spaghetti habits die hard, I suppose. But it was all worth it to see this mechanized magic take place. Yes. Wait. Did I just really blue ball myself? Feel about as bad as being a V2. Okay, maybe I'll feel better when I get this rail belt line on over this way. Because now I need to plan out the remaining science packs, production and utility science. Both of them being purple and yellow. Oh hey, those are my colors. Alright, so how is the— oh god, no, 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 no! And people say automation is the future, but the steps before it sure isn't. So far, working with bots has been really good. But if I had one problem with it, that would be I'm forced to work outside the network in order to plan my layouts. Of course, as soon as I do a ghost entity, the bots will place down the actual thing if I'm within range. I was going to look into something like a power switch to control the network, but it seemed too much of a hassle. But anyways, I was having a difficult time deciding what to work on first, and it'll have to be the prerequisites that I'll need extra for other projects. That's why I'm bringing over the sulfuric acid, a core component for our final tier of chips, processing chips. This here I feel was the tipping point of production being greater than input, because this was 26 assemblers of the stuff, each requiring 20 green chips for one of the ingredients. I still didn't do anything about it. Yet. Now bring in the whole thing. Yeah, boy. Just need to include power now. And direct the inputs. One of the first things I wanted to craft with blue chips was this here power armor, and it wasn't for defense. It's to have a decent sized equipment grid for equipment modules. I did have its predecessor, module armor, but the modules I could craft before didn't really interest me. That is, until I saw the exoskeleton, which increases movement speed and a personal robot port for construction robots to work from my inventory. And yes, those effects can stack. With all of this and portable solar panels with the battery, we are now zooming. Still needs more solar panels though. Now how about those bots? Sweet. Alright, moving on to— so low density structure is next, and if there was finally a time for copper plates to get really used up, this is it. Costing 20 plates with some plastic and steel. Alright, blue chips, flying robot frames, and low density structures all ready. Time for yellows. And looky here. Gonna have a fun time dragging this across the place. Spaghetti never dies. Yeah, I easily ran out of belts. So fitting in the next bit of science was a bit tricky at first, but I made use of underground belts on the blue science line to allow long-handed inserters to reach out far enough to get the yellows. Now I can eventually get my hands on better equipment modules and more logistic chests. Cool stuff. Alright, status report. How bad is everything? Very bad. Okay, I think we need a serious upgrade to the smelting power. How about some electric furnaces? They function at the same speed as steel furnaces, but they don't use coal and can take modules, which I'll explain later. So having to design this will be tight to pull off, as electric furnaces are 3x3 in size, meaning having a full 24 furnace line is going to extend out farther than intended. Then again, I have bots now, so making alterations is no issue. But this thing is going to be no holds barred. Now, since I'm incredibly lazy and desperate, I placed this assembling machine in the middle of my main bus to quickly make the furnaces I need. I could have made a proper production for them, as they are needed for purple science anyways, but improving my input of resources took priority. While it's doing that, I made improvements to rocket fuel on how it's delivered to my trains, with one of the new logistics chests that requests items, eliminating the need for belts. And so about 20 minutes later, I now have 288 furnaces for this behemoth of an overhaul. I know the teardown is going to be a lot, so I have storage chests nearby for convenience. Here goes nothing. Holy crap. Also, I don't know why by default ores are being directly sent to me, so I tried to redirect it to requester chests by the ore drop-off. Also, I should have made more roboparts, as one can only charge 4 bots at a time. I guess I should help out for a change. So now that it's all cleared out, it's time to watch something very, very satisfying. And if you are enjoying this, throw a like this way. It'd be very much appreciated. Beautiful. Now I just need to fix the belts going in and out of the place. So with the improved throughput, the lanes throughout the main bus would need an improvement when it comes to pulling and balancing from the main bus, especially with iron, since I'm now deciding to use 4 lanes. Also, the big power consumption that's bound to happen when the factory is in full swing again. After 30 minutes of belt fixing, it looks like I still made miscalculations, and the copper still doesn't look very saturated. So I went and added another array of furnaces for copper, which meant I had to remove stone from this array and for copper to take its place. With yet another array of smelters in place, I need to up the ante with power, and to properly divide the coal. I decided to do some quality of life stuff around the base, starting with the train system by adding more signals so trains can be more active. And green chip production can use a boost, since blue chips needs a crap ton of them. Oil, on the other hand, is oddly lacking, indicated by the blinking icons on the input pipe, which made me think I'm reaching the tipping point for the oil yield. Funny enough, I had a couple of tanks of oil just randomly sitting here that I could use, but that's only for a temporary fix. At the time, I had no time to rectify the problem on stream, so something I decided to do now speaks to me that I'm really getting into Factorio, doing off-camera work. What I went for was having the bots place down some more concrete, but more importantly, I built a 4th train to deliver oil from a second site located to the southeast. Even then, I probably didn't need to do that, as I noticed afterwards that not all the pump jacks were working at the first site. So was harvesting oil elsewhere pointless? Well, considering the plastic and sulfur demand that'll happen later, I'll at least treat it as a safety net. Another thing I decided to research off camera was this top tier armor available, Power Armor Mark II. And it's something I want to work towards for more grid space and better modules. I also did a little explosive automation to have cliff explosives for later and substation power lines. With the off-camera work done, it's now time to tackle the 6th science pack, production. First, I make what I should have made before the smelting upgrade, electric furnaces. Then a brand new item, Tier 1 production modules. And finally, purple science, which I decided to dial back on the packs per minute compared to other packs. Took me this long to pump the brakes on that, Jesus. Now to bring purple science to the rest of the family. And like before, long-handed inserters between underground belts on the inner belt line. So now the last barrier of entry towards setting up a rocket would be researching Tier 3 modules. Since I want better armor that requires Tier 2 modules, I might as well go all the way and set up production. As you gain access to better machines, some will have slots inside where you can install modules to have 1 to 3 different effects. Speed gives you more speed, but higher energy consumption. Productivity occasionally yields more, but higher energy consumption and less speed. And efficiency, which reduces energy consumption. While this playthrough doesn't show many examples, the ones I made use of is speed of assembling machines and productivity for the rocket silo, since the base materials is very costly. So what I'm currently doing here is not only designing tiers 1, 2, and 3, but to use specific tiers for other recipes, namely tier 1 speed for tier 3 assemblers. And I'm looking for all speed options right now since red circuit production is lacking bad. But because my tier 2 assemblers are on the other side of the base, I just resorted to bots to deliver the modules to make tier 3s over there. I even upgrade the assemblers to make said modules. To be honest, I kinda ran into another wall figuring out the design for this, but I couldn't stop thinking about that power armor, and this setup is just trying to make a beeline towards it. Come on, give me more red chips! And just mere minutes later, finally got enough tier 2s. Let's craft that sucker and equip! Boom! Now to throw in infinite power with a portable fusion reactor, because that makes sense. Anyways, now I try to continue working on the module stuff proper. What's trippy is that tier 1 takes red and green chips, but tier 2s and 3s take red and blue chips, as well as the previous tiers. But I couldn't really continue on with it as much because I still need to have a lot more red chips, and from what I gathered, it seems that plastic is having a hard time keeping up. So I tried adding 2 more light oil cracking machines, but it didn't seem to be the right fix. Maybe heavy oil cracking, or just more refineries? I tried doing those things, but the layout right now for oil is just too confusing to manage. It was something I decided to improve off camera. And I did. The top is now a lot easier to read because these pipes have that Tetris T shape to them, but the bottom portion is now the confusing part. But I'm okay with that compromise, as now I can expand each section with ease when needed. The tanks and pumps at the bottom still use the circuit network to regulate the amount. Anyways, back to modules, as I finally figured out a layout that is decent. It's definitely not expandable or consistent with ratios, but it's no big deal. It's also straightforward when I want to do the other types. Just change the assemblers and I'll take the same exact ingredients and amounts. But the red chips are still low and I'm still puzzled about it. But by chance I noticed power is teetering yet again, so I eventually changed the belt balancer to output 3 belt lines of coal, with 2 of them going straight to steam engines. And this is what happens when you're not quick enough, and having to manually feed this stuff. Okay, done. So you remember earlier when I pointed out the missing inserters for red chips? Yep, now I noticed. Man, stuff like that can just get under your skin and just make you feel stupid. But try as I might with handling the red chips with upgrading assemblers, increased plastic, anything, once I got to unlocking space science, I stopped all production for all science and focused squarely on the one thing I planned to do since the very beginning: launching a rocket. First things first, gonna divert the low density structure over to the launch site, which the location will be to the right of this here iron patch. Then I get the bots to send over the excess rocket fuel. But the last ingredient that I need for this is going to be a brand new item, a rocket control unit. So I went back to the module setup, divert the tier 1 speed to a new row, and just wait for blue chips to come this way. But this whole thing would feel meaningless if I didn't include a satellite to go with the rocket, which 2 of the ingredients I've been ignoring up until now: solar panels and accumulators. Why haven't I been using them? Maybe because I just had a lot of coal that'll last me beyond launching a rocket. Well, anyways, I made a quick offshoot for both solar panels and accumulators and have the finished product sent over by the bots to the launch site. Now to request half the stuff and manually feed the other half. Should be enough backlog of rocket units, so let's drag them over. And now the countdown begins. "19% in, and I forgot to throw in those modules. Oops. Here we go. Here we go. It's getting closer. So, with the satellite in tow, it's time to escape. Except I can't. For some reason, I thought you can enter the rocket to fly away. Maybe I'm confusing it to space exploration. Well, let's just pretend I'm flying away. All right, time for the generic countdown. 3, 2, 1, blast off! At long last, taking me roughly 62 hours, I've managed to launch the rocket, completing the main goal of Factorio. So, with this journey coming to an end, I'd like to give my closing thoughts to summarize this whole experience and what you can take away from all this. Obviously, this is the type of game that involves such intensive thinking and management to progress, such as knowing how many resources you got, where to place machines, how many machines, is the power adequate, are you keeping an eye on the biters? It can really just add up quickly, causing you to just feel overwhelmed to the point where you just want to quit, like how I was 6 years ago. God, I feel old. So if you rather want to play a game with less pressure on management and freedom to build whatever you want just because, then just play Minecraft. I'm not saying that to be mean because I play it too. I love Minecraft, so much so that I've made a tribute video on it, link top right. The way I see it, Minecraft and Factorio are like different flavors of sandbox games that really depends on the mood that you're in. Minecraft is simple to approach. You mine resources, build structures, go on adventures, and fight enemies. And it's easy to get immersed when you just want to get away from the troubles of day-to-day life. In the case of Factorio, upon service level observation, it is complex and progression requires heavy knowledge, which can be off-putting for some. But to flip that thought around and to give you that carrot on a stick, do you like the idea of things doing the work for you that once you figure out a way to get it to work, you almost never have to touch it again? That's the enjoyment of Factorio, figuring out ways of solving problems and getting that dopamine hit when something finally works. That's the beauty of it all. It's always a constant learning experience with all this. So if you decide to play this game, here's some takeaway advice if you choose to do so. Number 1, it is a sandbox game. Learn and play how you want to. Don't feel obligated to play in a certain way because other players say it's better. You can try and see if it fits for you, but if it feels off, try something else. Perhaps you don't want to be spoiled at all and having to drive yourself insane figuring stuff out. And if that is the case, you would not have been watching this anyways. Maybe your ways of learning is seeing examples from blueprints and then do your own spin on it. Or you're a busy person working 40 hours a week, caring for a family or other IRL stuff that you don't have the time to learn and just use blueprints straight away. Could you be losing out on the best experience if you learn one way over another? Maybe, but your enjoyment comes first. And that's what I did midway through my playthrough. So go ahead and tailor your experience. 2. Keep an eye on the throughput. Be prepared to do some back and forth work, balancing out input versus output. This was definitely apparent later in the playthrough when I thought too big on production that resource was dwindling. At the very least, think big on input and small on production, because from there you can just gradually add more production until everything evens out. And 3, don't tear down before bots. It certainly sounds tempting to rip your base apart when things don't work out or even start a new playthrough, but it's best just to beeline towards bots. At least get construction bots up. Because once you've accumulated your bots, moving things around is no longer your issue, and it's such a freeing experience. But if you still can't tolerate the steps leading up to bots, then give yourself more space than you actually need and to position your spots of production so they don't block one another when you need to do some modifications or expansions. Oh, and also, turn off cliffs. It sucks. So this whole journey leading up to launching the rocket was only one of many goals that you can go for, because this is a sandbox game after all. Your goals are whatever challenges you wish to self-impose on yourself. After launching the rocket, you could continue doing endgame content with select infinite research options, evolve your base to a mega base, produce a certain amount of products per minute, or go after some achievements. In fact, I've already started a second playthrough centered on limited handcrafting and most of the other achievements. And you bet that one day I'll be looking into mods of all shapes and sizes. I hope that these videos was informative with showing from the perspective of a new player and what my learning process was like, because I do want people to play complex games like these. While I didn't show everything, I gave what I feel is a good foundation so you can discover the other aspects of Factorio, like late to mid-game combat and defense on biters, other forms of energy production, endgame toys like the Spidertron, and other advanced concepts like managing a mega base and honing in on circuit networks. This game really paints itself as a constant learning experience, and these videos was just a mere drop of water in a vast ocean. So if you're ready for your sense of time to be absolutely demolished and getting lost in the repetition of constantly improving your automation, look no further than Factorio.